that you invented the cow share program in Ontario to get around like the current laws prohibiting the sale of raw milk in Ontario?
I wouldn't say that I invented it. I think it evolved out. It rather evolved out of trying to figure out, what can be done that people can get the milk they want. And so when you think about the question of that farmers can drink it, okay, farmers can drink their own milk. And then people come to us and we tell them, well, the only way how you can get it if you have your own cow. So that then kind of evolved into that concept of cow sharing. However, I have to say that there's another aspect to it. The cow sharing is actually a concept of a new connection, social connection between farmer and consumer, breaking down the barrier. Because we had a cow share operation in Germany where we did, not because of law issues, but simply because of the consumers wanted to be involved in the farm, directly involved. So there was a social component, and now we have more or less a legal component to it as well.
So is the cow share, or now the farm share program as it's called, that was set up and that you participated in, is it based on Canadian law or Ontario law? And why do people say, some advocates or some people say that it's a legal loophole or a twisting of the law, so to speak, the people that are anti-raw milk?
Right. I think it's all, a matter from which angle you look at it, okay? Those who oppose raw milk, they always tell you that, you try to flout the law, circumvent the law, and so on. And then there's the other side of the story where people say, well, why don't we have the right to make an informed decision? Okay, any farmer can make that decision for himself, but we don't have cows. We can't, in Toronto, we can't have a cow in a high-rise apartment. So how can we get access to it? So you simply look at the legislation, you look at the facts that if you own something, what would be the difference if you go to a cattle market, buy yourself a cow, have the cow here, and then you don't know how to milk, you ask somebody, can you milk the cow for me and so that I have my milk, So it's, in a way, we're dealing with provincial charges, okay? And with the provincial legislation. But there's also a federal legislation in regard to raw milk, that they're banning basically the commercial sale of any milk. And I think there's the difference that we're talking about here. This is the commercial enterprise, and the other is a private enterprise where people make an informed decision for themselves. So they opt out literally out of the current legislation or how you call it, the statutes, whatever they have, which regulates the commercial market. Yeah. And to get that, and it's understandable that the government hates it when people kind of separate themselves from the state control, and even if the intent is not to regulate every farmer, because otherwise they would go around and check every farmer if he has a cow, that they hate it when then people assert their right for their own cow and their own milk and for their own food. So I think it's philosophically kind of a hot topic, in a way actually an explosive topic, because people make an informed choice and say, well, do you know what? We don't need the protection of government. Sorry. We make the decision for ourselves. Okay.
Pasteurization, you said, is good in a commercial milk environment. Why would you say that? Like it was known that there's a lot of raw milk related illnesses in the early 1900s, but then it kind of got under control, so to speak. Can you speak to that? I kind of cut you off.
Okay, basically what happens is that we have entered now in the development, evolvement of agriculture into industrial agriculture, not anymore into agriculture, agriculture in that sense. It's now industrial agriculture. And industrial agriculture, first of all, the cows don't go out. They're all all year round in the barn. You cannot have 500 cows or 600 cows and have the same sanitary conditions you can have when you have 20 cows and personally, attend to them. So then the mass production, any mass production in agriculture has always its dark sides, and that is that we have an increase in kind of disease-causing bacteria. We know that. I mean, when you look at the spinach outbreaks and stuff like that, it's all industrial agriculture. And the same with the meat production, E. coli problems. We've all faced that because of industrial agriculture and not because it's inherently unsafe. So when you talk about commercial milk, there is a factor, and they agree with that 2%, of the samples they take contains pathogens, okay? So 2%. So let's say you have 100 farmers and 98 are clean, okay? But 2% are dirty. The milk all gets collected. They all end up in the same tank. So at the end, you have 100% of the milk contaminated with these 2% of the pathogens. So in order to reduce the risk, because it's all about risk reduction, you need to pasteurize it. There's no question, okay? And in our case, we have 25 or 35 cows. We know all the people where it's going. It's a limited group of people who get that. So you're not talking about billions of liters going out in one day, and then you have to recall it all because there's a chance that people get sick. So natural thing is you pasteurize, kill everything in the milk, and then it doesn't matter because it's not about nutrition. It's just about marketing, They know that the milk is not good for people. They know that because according to Health Canada and the FDA, milk is the most allergenic food product in North America. Milk, okay, the biggest allergenic product. So that's why they have a lot of recalls for products when there's undeclared milk allergens in it. And so, first of all, they know that people cannot digest any more of the milk, and we know the statistics show that the consumption of milk in general goes down, okay? 2-3% per year less that people drink milk. They go more to cheese and stuff like that. But there's another aspect to it. Raw milk, when people know how good raw milk is for them, okay, then they start rebelling, okay, because they say, well, I don't know what's wrong, but I drink this milk and this is fine. I drink the other milk. Something is wrong with that milk. And I'm not against pasteurization or so on. The commercial farmers, I think milk should be pasteurized because what comes out of there, I would not drink. Yeah.
Pasteurization may influence allergenicity. So when proteins, the whey proteins are the most allergenic of the proteins in milk, and whey proteins are subject to unfolding, or we call it denaturation, with heat treatment. So with high heat treated milk, you may find a difference in the allergenicity, like they may either decrease, potentially increase allergenicity. Proteins are denatured. The main protein casein isn't affected much by heat until you get much higher temperatures. But whey proteins do experience some unfolding. They probably actually become easy to digest in their denatured state. There's certainly no loss of nutrition associated with the proteins. Pasteurization does reduce something like, for example, vitamin C is present in milk in very low quantities. You can actually measure less of it after heating. But the amount is very low, and if you want vitamin C, eat an orange. It's not something you expect to get fortified with milk.
Have you received any help or support from the billion-dollar Canadian dairy industry or the DFO in your battles with the government? Have they given you financial, moral, or any kind of support?
The dairy farmers of Ontario are in bed with the government on that. It's just a reality because it's a monopoly which is established by the government through the dairy industry. And I just investigated it was called Milk League, which was a precursor to the Milk Marketing Board. And these were farmers who got basically together banded together in order to secure the price. And in 1932, the milk leagues petitioned politicians to introduce pasteurization to ensure that there's no undercutting of prices of people going into the city and bringing milk. That was in 1932, and they tell us it was done because of health reasons. For sure, that was part of it. But the Milk League was lobbying the minister, was lobbying the MPPs to introduce mandatory pasteurization so that they can ensure that nobody delivers milk to the cities unless it goes through their marketing system.
With experts on the DFO saying that only pasteurized milk is safe for consumption in Ontario, why would you personally advocate raw over pasteurized? Are there proven health benefits? Have you heard of, I've heard of raw milk healing certain diseases like asthma, allergies, like gut certain like symptoms like gastritis and stuff like that. Would you say raw milk is a lot more nutritionally valuable than?
Okay, I will abstain from any kind of judgment in general. I'm saying raw milk is good for me. I could not digest pasteurized milk. And I'm saying the people choose that, the people tell me that's the case, so that's why they want it. So the proof is in the pudding, you always say. You know, the reality is if it would make people sick, they wouldn't go and get it. Yeah? And anything what we are submitting in regard to the scientific debate is this is all pushed aside and said, well, this is anecdotal because it's not scientific proven. So, and you're supposed to believe a scientist who is paid by the DFO at the University of Guelph that he is unbiased about that? For sure he has to prove and has to state that raw milk is unsafe.
We get accused of that a lot, okay? Precisely because probably food science more than most departments, we do work a lot with the industry. We do training for Maple Leaf Foods. We train all vendors for Loblaws. We work with the Retail Council of Canada. We work a lot with industry, even just picking up the phone, various types of questions. We're just creating an innovation center that will reach out even more to the industry. So yes, and it is an important source of revenue for us. You know, even just maintaining our teaching facilities, a substantial amount of that now is done on external funding. The risk is still there. It's substantial, and in my view, the risk of raw milk consumption certainly does not outweigh, or certainly does outweigh any particular benefits you might experience.
But they never have done testing here. They never have really, you know, kind of shown us the data that people get sick. But it's you keep it as nebulous as possible, and find all, you know. I always say, well, if truth is based on the amount of evidence you provide, then we might as well forget it and just weigh the evidence, you know, the 15,000 pages or whatever, and we have maybe 100 pages. It doesn't mean that when you have 15,000 pages that you're more right. Not at all. But that's how the courts rule nowadays. There's overwhelming evidence that people get sick. If there's 200 or 300 cowshare members who got milk for the last 22 years and never got sick, why shouldn't that be scientific evidence? That is scientific evidence.
Well, it's certainly not scientific. How does he know nobody got sick from his milk in all those years?
I think he said nobody reported any.
So nobody reported it, but would they? If you're a raw milk fan, when you get sick, it's the last thing you're going to blame. How does he know? How does he know how many people have visited the families of his customers? The most people likely to get sick from raw milk are the visitors. Visitors to the farm, visitors to the family that's buying that milk, or the farm family, they're continuously consuming it. So if they survive the first doses, even if they get sick, they probably won't get sick again because they built up immunity. Then the cousins come from the city to the farm, and guess what happens? They get sick. Now they also may not know what caused it. So you have to look at the bigger picture, and in the comprehensive investigations, as I said earlier, the estimates are about 100 times more likely. I just sort of scanned quickly, the food safety. What's the word I'm looking for? Not blog, but distribution list, whatever. And I mean, you almost never see a problem associated with pasteurized milk. But every week, there's one or two coming up. There's an outbreak in Australia or US or wherever associated with raw milk. And the really painful ones are, the kids that when they get Shikatoxin, E. coli, kidneys shut down. These kids, if they survive, suffer for life. Why? Because mom thought raw milk could be good for the baby's health. Sorry, not wise.
How come they have raw milk dispensing machines in most of European countries? How come that Canada is the only G8 country which does not have a legal way how people can obtain raw milk? Yeah. I mean, that does not, make this debate a very scientific debate, because the reality is people drink it there and they don't have explosive numbers of that people die or get sick.
Yeah. So are you aware that in the former Soviet Union, government ministries and commissions, as well as regulators and inspectors, were all designed to regulate, control, and manage every aspect of the Soviet economy? And that's how Stalin seized power, essentially, from the people. And Canadian ministries seem to be like the Ministry of Natural Resources, Agriculture and Food, the myriad of inspectors, bureaucrats, licensed officials, enforcers. They're kind of reminiscent of the communist or socialist system. Do you feel that's kind of gaining power in Canada, this whole bureaucracy wanting control over every aspect of a person's or a farmer's life?
I don't feel that. I know it is like that. That's the reality. And the human mind works in strange ways, When when bureaucrats smell power, they use power, okay? And I think the danger, there is a certain different danger we are in than what happened in Russia, okay? In Russia, they were with leather boots on the ground, and oh my God, they're coming, okay? Here, they're all nice people, they're all, and there is no pointing fingers, okay? There we knew it was Stalin. In Germany we knew it was Hitler, okay? In Spain we knew it was Franco, all these things, we knew that. And now we have this new monster there of almost a collective mind of faceless bureaucrats, okay? Where nobody's responsible, but they have all the power you can think of. Yeah, and this is, I think, an attack on the free human being. It's almost a worst case scenario, hard to imagine, but that is where we are.
You can call it bureaucratic control, but it's really our society determining what level of risk we're willing to take. And with the raw milk one, what really, gets to me is the vulnerable populations.
You know what? I have no problem that you guys do inspections. I think inspections are great. Health inspector can come in, can look at it, checks, because I feel that inspections are actually good, because for me it's a reward when somebody can come in and say, well, wow, this is really clean. And that's the responsibility we have towards the people who own the cows. I don't think anything has to change. I think the only thing, what actually is needed, that they recognize that cow shares are outside of the commercial regulations, okay? Because we're not in the public stream, it's not going into stores and so on. And the recognition that the cow shares are a legal entity outside of the commercial marketing. Okay, that's all what is needed, and they have all the power to do that. They don't need the parliament for that. They just adjust, the regulations and say, well, cow shares are not in our jurisdiction. Done.
Do you see an end in sight with all the legal battles, or do you see them just continuing? Is there a light at the end of the tunnel, or is it dark and gonna stay dark?
There's eternal hope. Let's put it this way. But it's it seems for many people it seems almost hopeless. To after 22 years, over and over, one raid after the other. But the real winning is that people still get their milk. That is, I think, it seems like if these court cases are, kind of frustrating, and they are frustrating, but, the real win is that people still get their milk.
Yeah, and it seems like you have the moral high ground in this case, right? That's one thing that really underpins your whole, I think, stance against the government. Is that accurate?
You know what, I don't know. I withstand forces in government which takes away our freedom, okay, and takes away the responsibility for ourselves. I'm not against government. I'm against dictatorial powers of bureaucrats trying to tell you what you're allowed to do and what not to do. I mean, if you just look 50, 60 years back, nobody would have even thought about that. They would tell you what you can eat and what you can't eat,
So I've read that you say that raw milk issue is a lot more than just about distributing raw milk. It's about freedom, fundamentally. You've already touched a lot about that. Do you have anything to add to that? It's a fundamental issue of freedom, essentially.
No, the reason why I'm talking about that is because people always think, well, it's maybe just about raw milk. No, it has nothing to do with raw milk, really. It has something to do that people make a choice. Yeah, the choice is not 20 different brands of pasteurized milk. The choice is, can I get healthy food, or am I forced to eat and buy only the commercialized food? Yeah, people waking up that processed food is not good for them. They make a decision, and the government says, no, sorry. You come to us because we know what's better for you. And if people don't recognize that as a real danger, then I don't know what to do. And that's why I'm saying the glass of raw milk, I always say the glass of raw milk is a symbol of the food freedom movement,
What motivates you to keep fighting for the freedom to produce raw milk without harassment from the bureaucracy?
I studied history long enough. I studied not at university, but out of personal interest. I was always critical, not negative critical about government, but I feel really responsible for society and for the country we live in, and there was the same thing in Germany. And I'm not saying that I'm ashamed what happened in Germany, but I am, determined that something like happened in Germany will not happen anymore. Okay. And it's so easy forgotten, so easy. Once, everybody has their car and their TV and so on, they say, oh, well, it's not that bad, And then they take your foundation away of, being a human being which freely can make a decision, living without fear and so on. And that is why, I can't just look away when there's injustice in the world. Why are we taking the easy way out when our parents and grandparents went through all that to basically get us here, and now we squander it away through ignorance and apathy? It's the old saying: give them bread and games, and that's sports games, and
Yeah.
and then they're happy.
Circus and bread, right?
Yeah, circus and bread. So what else do we need? Everything. We a free country. We are free. We can choose between 20 brands of pasteurized milk. All right, we have the choice, but we have not the choice to dance outside the system to get raw milk. Yeah.
I actually don't like pasteurized milk. I drink a little bit. I grew up on a dairy farm, and I drank raw milk my whole childhood, right till I came to university at age 18. So I have consumed a lot of raw milk.